Ten Hag, he's hit back at his critics.
So I brought Kobe Mino, and everyone is questioning. And now we are 6 weeks ahead, and the same who questioning are now telling he has to go in the England squad. Same people. Garnacho, it's the truth. I brought Garnacho. So what is the manager doing? What is the staff doing?
Not understanding why people question his judgment. John is now, for more on this, legendary United coach Rene Meulensteen. Rene, good morning.
Good morning, Rene. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, gents.
Rene, it's a strange one, United, at the moment. So the 26% or so are around their takeover has happened now. The big question is, what happens next? Does he make changes end of the season? Did he stick with Ten Hag and give him a chance? What do you think's going to happen, Rene?
Well, what I think is going to happen is something different than what I think that needs to happen. The key is, again, is clarity, transparency. People need to know as soon as possible what direction they're going to head into, whether they're going to stick with Ten Hag or maybe change. At the end of the day, it needs to be clear for everybody. There's been a lot of talks about people coming in key positions at the club. So that part of the strategy is very, very clear. The next part is then, okay, what are we going to do with the current manager? Are we backing him? And what are we going to do with the current playing squad? So, the key for me is to making sure that there's clarity early on, not wait too long, because it might eat into another transfer window again. And as we know, over the last few years, Manchester United has not been very good around that particular time.
What about Rene? It appears Ali and I were talking about earlier about Marcus Rashford saying he looks more comfortable an England shirt on than a United shirt. So something's got to give there, because when Rashford's at his best, he's one of United's best players.
Without a shadow of a doubt, but I've listened to you guys before on the show when Ali made a really good point. It's for everybody. Everybody needs to be in a good in a good space, in a good headspace. When people are happy and they're relaxed, they will perform at the best. But if there's something eaten away that isn't right, it has the opposite effect. And you can clearly, and Ali mentioned the body language of Rashford, and that is clear for everybody to see. So what is going on, I don't know, but it has happened with Manchester United with different players before. The key is, if there's anything going on, sort it behind closed doors, right? Face to face, get it out there, and making sure that your players in the best possible space to perform.
Rene, what about, I want to ask you a couple of specific positions. I mean, the wide players are struggling. Manchester are having a little bit of a struggle, but wide players, obviously Sancho is well documented. We're speaking about Rashford there. Garnacho's, I think, been probably the best of the bunch in the wide areas. They look as though they might be getting rid of Anthony now. They've got problems in the wide area, but also the left-hand side of the defence, I think, mate. We spoke about it. I cannot but believe just how, when Shaw and Martinez are not there, they just look a different side. Poorer defensively.
Yeah, they do. And opposition, as we know, Ali, there's no hiding place in football anymore. They will analyse, the opposition. They will analyse Manchester United. They will analyse where they can help. And Fulham, to be fairly honest, did a fantastic job by pinning the back four, by leaving the front three up. And Pereira in behind that midfield. That was, I think, Jamie Carragher was alluding to. But it was an imbalance on that left-hand side. And I know Erik was talking about it has to do with passion and willingness and all that. But first and foremost, it has to do with the defensive structure, that everybody knows the job. What are we actually doing? Are we pressing from the front? What does that mean for the front players, the midfielders, the back line, etc.? So first and foremost, you need to understand what job is required when we're defending in certain areas of the pitch.
Yeah. So Jim Ratcliffe talks about our aim is obviously to knock Liverpool and City off their perch, but I don't know. I just think there's still a long. There's a big gap between Arsenal, City, and Liverpool to Manchester United. Rene,
it is, but I can see in some ways where you're coming from. You have to have those sort of ambitions, and we've heard this quote before from a very famous manager, and he managed to do it. But things can turn quickly as well, Alan. And Ali, look at Arsenal, with Arteta coming in, he's had a clear idea. Last year, they were very, very close. This year, again, they're playing some really good football. It's a clear identity and a culture. So if things fall into place fairly quickly, on different aspects of the club and the team, things can turn very quickly as well.
Rene, 8 years ago, believe it or not, Marcus made his Premier League debut and scored 2. Have we overhyped him, or is he now so below par that, Ali, as you mentioned his body? Is it time to move on? Does he need to break free now and go somewhere where he's going to enjoy himself again? Because he's clearly not enjoying training or football.
Yeah, well, I think the only one that can answer that question is Marcus himself. But I've always rated him very, very highly because of the potential that he's got. I know him from a young kid. And you want to be seeing that young kid back in Marcus again, the way he played. Nothing was holding him back. He was bright, he was creative, he was brave, courageous. And now it's like he's playing, sometimes with a handbrake on. Mm-hmm. And that has to come off, whether that is at Manchester United or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Rene, where do you sit in the stadium situation? Because obviously we've talked beforehand about whether they're going to, build a new stadium, which would have been an exuberant cost, or spending money and refurbishing Old Trafford, which I think we're all in agreement could certainly do with a few pounds spent on it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's been well documented over the last 5 years or so. So, something definitely needs to happen. But I think it's a matter of, architects looking at the stuff and say, okay, what does it cost to refurbish and upgrade Old Trafford, or what's the cost and the benefits of maybe building a new Old Trafford? I'm not in that profession, but I think we're all in agreement that something has to happen.
But would the fans not want the money cleared out and spent on new players rather than a new stadium, Rene?
It has to be both, Alan. I mean, in the end of the day, that's what Man United is. I think, excuse me, if you look at the current squad, and there are some players that are, in the 30s, and I think that shows sometimes when Man United got hit with injuries and they do lose a little bit of pace at the back, they lose a little bit of legs in the midfield. That has to be addressed 100%. And on top of that, because, you have to work on 2 tracks. Unfortunately, that is what United need to do. And that's what Sir Jim Ratcliffe needs to do. There's 2 tracks. One is the outside track of what do we need to do to upgrade the club, the stadium and everything else, the infrastructure. And we have to look at, actually the team and the squad and the manager, etc.
Rene, just finally, who wins the Premier? 12 games to go now. Who's going to be number 1?
I tell you something. It's so exciting to see three teams really going for it, and I don't think there is this not yet to be seen yet. There's no cracks, within Liverpool or Arsenal, and Man City's not running away from it. They've got obviously the experience of winning it for the last 4 or 5 years, so they will be there or thereabouts. Arsenal learned a lot from last year. I'm sure those players will be more and more committed. I think this time, they're going for an outsider. I think Arsenal's going to do it.
Oh, well, Rene, I was there on Saturday. I've got to tell you, the first 45 minutes against Newcastle was probably as good as I've seen in a long, long time. They were absolutely terrific. So a lot of people wouldn't disagree with you, mate.
As you say, Rene, some big games to come as well, isn't there? You look at them all; they've all got tricky ones.
Yeah.
But Arsenal, if they can, I think if the centre backs,
vital.
If they can keep them 2 centre backs, Arsenal get every chance, definitely. If they take the chances, because there's no centre forward. Rene, listen, we'll talk soon, I hope. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your time, Rene.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.